Hi, I'm Mitch,
And I'm Todd.
and we are the Coastal Geeks. This week, we're going to spoil The Expanse.
We're going to spoil the hell out of The Expanse. Season 2, thus far, anyway. We're up
Right.
to episode 5, maybe? Or episode
Yep.
4?
Episode 5.
Episode 5.
All right, so we do a thing on our regular weekly show where we spoil TV shows or movies that we've watched recently, and I've been behind on The Expanse. Todd's been dying to spoil it with me, so we're just going to go ahead and get it out of the way. I finally caught up, watched all 5 episodes so far from the season, and so we're just going to dive right in. So, the
Yes.
crew went to some interesting places this season so far, huh?
Yes, it's picked right up where it left off last year with a bang. I've really enjoyed what they've put out so far this year. The what's been going on in Eros with the I don't know what they're calling it, the alien bio weapon that took over Eros Station. They decided to go back and take it out, blow it up to save mankind. But before then, I think we talked a little bit last week about one of my favorite scenes when Jim Miller shoots the guy in the head because he's making too much sense. That was perfect because the guy was making a lot of sense. He's like, we sacrifice 100,000 Belters or so in order to save all of humanity. Is it really too much of a price to bang?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So last season, it ended with them trying to figure out the mystery of where is Julie Mao. That was kind of the thing that Thomas Jane's character Joe Miller was trying to track down, and at the same time, James Holden was trying to figure out who tried to kill who killed the Canterbury, right?
Yeah, that was a fantastic start to the series. I would like to just say before we go any further that this series is based off of a series of novels and novellas written under the pen name James S. A. Corey by authors Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank, or Frank, however you say it. The first book was Leviathan Wakes, and I'm dying to get these books now because I enjoy the show so much. But it was taken and developed for Sci-Fi Channel by Mark Ferguson and Hawk Ospey, who might be known by some of their other work that they've done. They did Children of Men, which is a really interesting movie. They did Iron Man. They had some involvement with Iron Man, which is one of my favorite all-time, probably top 3 comic book-based movies of all time. So they have, despite the fact they also worked on Cowboys and Aliens, they have a good repertoire. So that explains why this show is so top-notch and why it is so well done. So good on Sci-Fi for getting these people and putting the show out there.
That movie wasn't that terrible. Cowboys and Aliens.
I was thinking about it, and I've said before, you can take any stupid idea, and if you do it well enough, you can do a good job with it. I would like to have been in the office in Hollywood when they came in and pitched that idea to some money guy that, we'd like some money. We're going to make a movie. What's the movie called? Cowboys and Aliens. What? Get out of my office! But yet they convinced him to make it, and they somehow convinced James Bond to star in it. So
They had a pretty decent cast. Harrison Ford was in that.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking royalty here. Film royalty played in this movie, and they did a decent job with it. So, so it's no surprise to me that this material has been treated so seriously by Sci-Fi. There's no campiness to it. It's really good, solid science fiction work. I mean, I don't want to offend any Star Wars fans out there, but Star Wars is not science fiction. It's space opera. It's science fantasy. There's really or it's space fantasy. There's no science in Star Wars. This show, a crap ton of more science in it.
Well, when they tried to put science in Star Wars, they gave us midichlorians. So
yes, that's right. We're going to explain how the Force works. So, so you say you've watched the episodes up to catch up with me, and so the fact that this alien microbe grows out of control, I guess starting with Julie Mao's body, and
Right.
takes over Eros, and they get this brilliant idea that they have to destroy this thing, and they're going to take this giant spaceship that they built for the Mormons, because the Mormons are going to go out into the stars and spread the word of
Those poor
John Smith.
Mormons.
Yeah. And so at Tycho Station, they have this giant ship, and they tell them all that there's some sort of inspection they have to do or some sort of scare, and they get them all off the ship. Now they're going to use the ship as a battering ram to hit Eros, which is a giant potato-shaped asteroid in the asteroid belt, and they're going to knock it into the sun. But how does that work out for them?
So that was a crazy scene. Thomas Jane's character Joe Miller is on Eros, and he's holding his finger on the trigger of a faulty bomb. And if he lets his finger off, a 60-second timer starts to blow up the thing. And if it blows up, it pushes Eros off tracks where, the ship's not going to push it into the sun. And then he's ready. He sees the ship coming straight at him, and then it misses. And you're like, what the hell just happened? So I thought that was a really cool scene. And
And it
at
was a
that point,
to that episode, because I was getting kind of, I'm like, they're really going to kill Joe Miller. He's like one of the central characters from season one. And Thomas Jane, one of the most experienced actors they have on the show, somebody we've seen in lots of other stuff. So yeah, when Eros, they miss, and then they explain that, I guess the last thing they say is, we didn't miss, Eros moved.
right. Yeah, that was kind of crazy. So this alien life form has evolved enough to move this asteroid that's in stable orbit and push it like a ship. They don't ever explain how any of that works, but it's taking over.
Metachlorians. I'm pretty sure it's metachlorians.
I will stop watching the entire show if that's true. It's the Force. No.
Series is like, Eros, I am your father.
No.
But yeah, it dodges this other ship, which they never get back to. Where does the ship for the Mormons go? Why don't they just go get it, fly it back to Tychos, and go, oh, we're sorry, we were just testing out a few things,
Fooled you.
Yeah, we were just testing,
Yeah. They don't ever talk about that. They don't explain it. They're just like, we missed. Oops, and then it's gone.
And it's gone.
I guess it's heading towards the sun. Maybe they disabled autopilot so that the Mormons couldn't get back in and take back over, or they couldn't send a signal from Earth to divert it, or something. And so that's why they couldn't take it back over. But yeah,
that's been the only plot flaw that I've seen so far. A little plot hole of, well, what happened to the giant Mormon ship? Why did it? So it missed. It didn't hit anything. It should be perfectly fine flying around in space. But it also might have a giant engine that has propelled it so fast. And since it missed Eros, it may have just flown right across the solar system and right out into deep space.
Till it hits something. And
yeah. So that was kind of interesting. Then Eros, of course, decides to get even with Earth for whatever reason. It wants to go to Earth. It starts making a beeline for Earth.
And so, yeah, we don't figure out why it's heading to Earth. Is it the aliens trying to get there? Is it their whole purpose to colonize Earth? What's going on? And it turns out after Joe goes into the asteroid, he's going to take this bomb into the core, the heart of this alien structure, and then blow it up. And then at the very heart of it, he finds out it's where they left Julie Mao's body, and she's alive, and she's hosting the alien effectively.
And she's hot and blue. Not hot and blue like Mystique, but
I'm just going to say, I've seen two movies now that have had superhero effects of glowing blue people. One of them had a giant naked man with glowing white eyes. The Watchmen.
The Watchmen. Yeah.
This was so much better.
Yeah, I prefer this one too. Julie Mao's got it going on in her glowy blue skin. She sort of reminded me of Cortana a little bit. Isn't it
I thought
Cortana?
Cortana, yeah, I thought Cortana a little bit, um, but I also was looking around at it while that was going on, talking to my son who I watched the show with, and I was looking at the set and wondering how much of that was practical and how much of that was digital. Her hair
It was
floating around.
amazing.
Yeah, it's an awesome set.
Yeah, the whole trip through Arrows to where she's getting, I'm sitting there marveling at the work they put into it. They spared no expense for the special effects on this show. It doesn't look like they're shooting in this on the same little set that they borrowed from Dark Matter or Killjoys or one of like a lot of sci-fi shows
Or,
look like they just move the crates around and then
or they
it's
resurrected the set from like Deep Space Nine or something.
yeah, it's nothing like that. It's the show is just top notch. So they're getting deeper and deeper, and he gets to Julie Mao, who for some reason he's developed this serious obsession for. He's in
Yeah,
love with a girl he's never even met, and
yeah.
he gets to her, and we find out why is it flying to Earth
She just wants to
because
go home.
Julie just wants to go home, just like Dorothy. She just wants to go home, and she doesn't
And
even have her little dog.
apparently, she taps her heels and turns a an asteroid into a spaceship.
Yeah, better than a stupid hot air balloon. There, wizard.
Yeah,
So somehow Thomas Jane's character, Jim Miller, gets through to her and convinces her we can't do this to Earth. Let's go to Venus instead, which I thought was really cool. I had a little bit of problem. I was talking before about science fiction, and so in this week's episode, sort of an aside, I was like, how long it would take to get to the asteroid belt from Earth? Because they launch nukes. Earth is like, we can't have this giant potato flying into Earth, so we're going to launch a big arsenal of nukes. We're going to blow this thing to crap. And I'm sitting there going, do you know how long it's going to take this potato from out beyond Mars to get to Earth, and how long it's going to take those missiles to get to Eros? Is the one flaw that I saw in the whole show. Well, this last week, they went back in time and they show a guy creating the technology they use now to power all of their ships. And at one point, it's just skyrocketing out of control and he can't stop it. And the meter is counting. And I froze the thing. And I went up and I'm like, all right, he's moving at something like 2,222,000 meters per second. And I'm like, well,
yeah,
what is the speed of light? So I quickly Google that. And it turns out that it's like 2,400,000 meters per second or something like that. So he's approaching the speed of light. So whatever they have technology-wise, it must be able to push things pretty close to the speed of light, which then could explain why in an hour they could get from Mars to Earth and be a hazard. So that's my little bit of science, long beard science theater here.
well, I mean, one of the limitations that they normally have with people on ships is they can't handle the heavy G's of speeding up. And so you see a little bit of that with James Holden's crew following the asteroid, so they can stay near Joe Miller, so they can try and rescue him if things go wrong. They still have some hope, and they're following him, and they're increasing their velocity constantly to the point where they're being injected with this goo they have to help them deal with the heavy G's. But even that is starting to go toxic in their system, and they're about to die from overexposure to this. But
Yeah,
they
and
have
they're
to
going to
back
sacrifice
off.
themselves to try and stop it. But I think they all determined, we don't care. We'll do whatever it takes to stop this, even if it kills us. Until Miller tells me it's not doing any good. I'm going to use a different approach, and you guys can stop killing yourselves. What do you think of the Rossi as far as other ships in other shows you've seen? Where do you think it rates in the pantheon of, say, Firefly or the Battlestar Galactica ships, or other famous, the Millennium Falcon? How would you rate the Rossi?
I mean, like size wise, or just like coolness level,
No,
or
coolness level.
so. I mean, I love the guns they have on there. The auto turrets are amazing. Coming out from all sides. I really like that. The ship seems paper thin, as quickly as those railgun bullets pierce through that thing in their one battle with the stealth ship earlier in the season. But yeah, I like it. I like the origin of it, and it felt kind of a little more personal. So last season they get this Martian battleship whenever they're trying to get off of a Martian battle cruiser. They're trying to escape after the stealth ship is attacking them, and Mars works to get the crew off so they can clear Mars's name in trying to start this war early on. But yeah, so they get this thing, and they have to disguise it because they know that if the Martians pick it up, that they will assume that it's been stolen or that they're terrorists and killed the other ship. So they have to re-hardwire the identity of the ship, and they name it the Rocinante, the workhorse. I thought that was cool. That was a personal touch. It kind of, I think they took a card from Lucas and the Millennium Falcon. The Millennium Falcon was Han Solo's baby. There's a backstory to how he got the ship and why it's personal to him, and they've been through a lot together, and maybe I guess the crew, James Holden and the rest of his crew, kind of have that backstory unfolding in front of our eyes, and that's kind of neat to watch happen. The Firefly is kind of an iconic ship. I don't know that you can really replace that, but it's not a fighter ship either. So
No.
it's in its own thing, and I always have a special place in my heart for the Serenity. So
The other thing I've noticed about the ships and the things they have on here, they seem to be fairly close to current technologies if they expanded out a little more. There's nothing really far out like maybe say the ship of Queen Amidala that they had on Naboo, how sleek and weird looking that was, really cool. But the Rocinante looks more like things we have now, kind of like where you could see if they just had better propulsion, they'd go out into space, and a little more real. The stations look a little more realistic, and I like that aspect of it, that they are not that far out in the future, and they try not to make it too far out into the future. This is not the Enterprise.
yeah, that's definitely cool. And they do a really good job in the entire show of taking current technology, like you're saying, and then just saying, what would it look like in 100 years or 1,000 years or however long it is. I'm not sure the date for the show, when it's supposed to be set. Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, I think it's said in the novels and on the Wikipedia site for it that it's set 200 years in the future.
So 200 years, enough for some major advances, enough for colonization of Mars to really start and take off, and people to really start to try and get the terraforming working, but not so much that you're getting, Star Wars kind of, we're not getting lightsabers or,
Yeah.
warp drive or anything like that.
And the other thing I liked is when they did the flashback where the guy discovers the technology on Mars when he's flying around Mars. I think that said that was like 127 or 167 or
It
something
was
like that.
127 years prior to the current time in the show.
Okay, so that's not that far into the future. So, and in that scenario, there's a small Martian colony. They probably have a little town on Mars named Elonville or Muskville or something like that, where they've colonized. And
With their president for life, Elon Musk.
that's right. And so, this guy is up in orbit in his yacht, and he's a tinkerer. He's, if he was on Earth, he'd be tinkering around with the engine of his 70 Challenger, trying to get more horsepower out of it. But he owns a yacht up in space, so he's tinkering around with that, trying to get a little more power out of it. And it's a great scene. He bought it from, I guess, an Asian company, and so he's having problems with the voice control. And they had to put that in to explain why he couldn't just say computer, because you got to figure 50, 60 years in the future, all the computers are going to have voice technology. You're going to be able to just talk to your computer, do whatever you want.
Well, and as a safety feature, and they show you that a little bit as that unfolds. Yeah, you might want that.
Yeah. And so he turns it off because it keeps trying to speak to him in Chinese or Japanese. And so he just turns off the voice command and decides to just go, and so he's tinkered around with the settings and the mixture of the ship, and he hits the button, and it takes off and throws him back in the seat, and he cannot reach the stop button. And it's a little funny because he's just trying to hit stop, and this thing is taking off, and it's getting faster and faster and faster to the point where it gets to around point 0.9 light years. And I just thought that was just a great scene. Very funny. He's trying different stuff. It seemed like at one time when he was trying to reach out, when he gave up and his arm flew back, almost like it snapped his wrist or something.
Oh yeah,
Like,
I was wondering, like was it the ring that gave it the extra weight? Because it did seem like he was straining so hard to reach his hand out there, and then just like he gave up or it was too much, it snaps his arm back behind him, and then he's pretty much
yeah.
screwed. I was kind of rooting for him to survive and wondering how this awesome tech would get into the hands of people afterwards if he dies. But he explains it right there in the end. He left the plans with his wife, and he hopes that she's set for life, and that's it. The actor who
Yeah.
did that is a sci-fi alum, by the way. He plays on a remake of a British show. I think it's Being Human or something along those lines. He's a werewolf who lives
Oh,
in a house with a vampire and a ghost.
that's funny.
Yeah,
Hey, who doesn't?
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was a touching thing. I also liked the way they did it in the episode, in that it wasn't just all at once, like the first 15 minutes of the show where they did this thing. It played out in little segments, over time, to where it left you wanting a little bit more of the story. And then by the end of the episode, they did it at like commercial breaks or something like that. As you came back, it was this little piece of the story about how the tech for this engine came about. And so, yeah, it was a nice little world building bit there where they were explaining the tech, and it had just this nice little piece with him. Unfortunately, not so nice for him, but it was a
Yeah.
cool little thing anyway.
And Christian Avasarala uh, is the character's name of Shari Agdilasher. I can't say her name. You've seen her in lots of things, 24 and other things. Her character, is that the Secretary General of the UN she's playing?
The UN Assistant Undersecretary of
This is,
Executive Administration.
all
That's
right.
a mouthful.
So there is a scene where she comes in and she's talking to the guy that she doesn't know is a traitor, but it's played by Sean Doyle. I guess it's Sadavir Ehrenreich is the character, and that's the first time you've really seen her claws come out. That was a pretty good scene. The political part of it, I like the stuff in space. That's mostly what I focus on. I like the Tycho Station, the Belters, everything, and I've kind of put up with the political intrigue that's going on. But that part is getting a little better. And when she went into his office and gave her little speech in the last episode, and
Right.
really bared her fangs a little bit and put the fear of God into him when she walked out of the room. I was like, wow, that was kind of cool to see, because up to this point she's been playing, the nice guy all along and sort of working in the back channels to try to get things done.
Well, I
And
think she's been playing it smart and playing it safe because she knows she's in dangerous waters, and she didn't really have the upper hand at the time, and so she was playing dumb, and she was playing along, and she was playing the part that she was supposed to be playing, that they expected her to play. But this isn't the first time she's shown some political savvy or some cutthroat, shrewd business, acumen. In the first season, she leaks the news to her friend, the ambassador to Mars, about the stolen drives, and of course, he broadcasts that, and they use that to figure out where all of these like stealth ship manufacturing facilities are, and he gets banned from ever going back to Mars again. And that was her father's friend who really got her into politics, and she was raised around him, and she just used him and threw him away. And then even worse, she goes to visit his husband afterwards in his home, pretending to be grieving. Can I have just a minute in his office? And then she steals these pencils, and you're like, why the hell did she steal these pencils, right? And then it turns out on the ship on the way back, she's holding these pencils to a pad because they're like data storage things, and she's stealing information from him that he'd kept about it. So
Yeah.
she's not afraid to use people.
Yeah, so you get sort of two shows going on at once, and that part of the show is equally as well done as the other parts. It's what a solid show. And so it's kind of sad that Jim Miller died, that he rode Eros right into Venus. That was
So
kind of
we
a
know that
bummer.
he rode it into Venus, right? But we don't know that he's completely out of the show yet.
He's dead, Jim.
Julie Mao was dead too at the end of
Oh,
season
that's
one.
true. At the end of season one, she was a goner, and now she's a hot blue, glowy Cortana lookalike.
No.
So something could have happened. I mean, we don't know. They could have both abandoned ship together at some point. Who knows?
Or the life form survives and just rebuilds them because they're now part of the matrix of consciousness or whatever.
Maybe it formed a giant shell around them when they went into the planet, and then when they hit, it broke up into little pieces, and now she's got like a little talking blue thing that's like, "I am Groot." Maybe
Uh, that
I'm mixing the streams. I'm mixing the streams.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, I did want to ask you what you thought of the very end of the last episode. So these Marines are out on this this colony to what they say, it was like bean farmers or something like that, trying to have a presence there. And the UN has a presence on this facility, and the Mars Marines have something, and they've got a little DMZ in between them. And the Martians think that the UN is coming over and attacking. And at first, it looks like they're lighting things up. They're shooting randomly. You don't know what's going on. But as they start getting closer, it looks like they're shooting at either one of their members or somebody behind them, and you're not sure what's going on there. And then it cuts away to a few other things, and then at the very, very end, it cuts back. Most of these Marines are dead, except for the gunnery sergeant, Roberta Draper. And she's got a little crack in her mask, and then somebody leans over top of her, and Martian.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
I mean, I say Martian, but that's probably the wrong term. The people from Mars are Martians. It's a
yeah,
alien, some kind of alien.
some kind of alien. That's the first time that they've really had an alien life form in the show. It'll be interesting to see what it turns out to be. So they were on Ganymede Station, I guess, was where they're at, one of the moons of
Yeah, that's
Jupiter.
right. Yeah,
Um,
my son and I were enjoying that. Ganymede's the name of one of the characters in Overwatch.
ah. So I was kind of excited to see how ground battle would go on this show, if it was going to be as good as everything else. They had the one scene where the Martians were training on Mars. That
Right.
was pretty cool. A few episodes back, and I was interested to see what I was a little anticlimactic that nothing really happened, and it was kind of sad that the her captain on the ship, the whole ship got just disintegrated by this surprise attack.
Yeah,
So
that guy's done a couple of things too. He was on. There was a show on Sci-Fi a while ago, had to do with time travel.
oh, Continuum.
Continuum. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he
Yeah,
was.
he's on a lot of Canadian shows because
Yep.
he was also there was a cop show they used to have. Um, oh, let's see, Hugh Dilton, I think Hugh Dillon, I think is the actor's name. And the other show, something Point, I want to say, he was on Continuum. He was on the Kill It Flashpoint. Yes, he played Ed Lane on Flashpoint, which was a show that we watched for a while. And then he was Stan Escher on Continuum. I guess he was the rich guy that owned the company on Continuum, right?
Yeah, he was the rich guy that
Yeah.
owned the company, and he ended up being the son of one of the characters, but from the future. That show was just kind of screwed up by the time they
Yeah,
got to
but,
the end.
well, I still haven't finished it. I still have season 3 to go. I kind of got out in season 3.
Yeah, I've
Um,
got the last season. If I want to watch it, I'll have to watch it on Netflix or wherever it's streaming. But yeah, that would just fell off for me. Usually I stick to the end for shows like that, but maybe eventually I'll get back to it.
yeah. But as far as Expanse goes, I think that's all I have. I'm looking forward to the next episode. I'm hoping that it stays at this high level of production that they've had it at. I mean, I hope it gets picked up for season three. I haven't heard anything. I don't know if it does. I know that the books that the show is based off of has a new one coming out this year. Um, see if I can find the name of the books. There is Leviathan Wakes is the first book, Caliban's War, the second book, Abaddon's Gate, then Cibola Burn, Nemesis Games, Babylon's Ashes was out in 2016, and then coming out in 2017 is Persepolis Rising. So if you're into the books and you like to read, I'm always a little afraid to read a book because then you're comparing the book to the TV show and that, or to a movie or a TV show, and that's never a good comparison. One or the other
Well,
usually suffers by comparison. It's very
for this
rare
one,
that the books is.
yeah, this one I might just wait until I'm done with the show, so I'm not spoiling anything, and so I can just take it on its own merit. I don't have to compare the two of them while it's still going. I kind of ruined Game of Thrones that way. I started watching it and then read all the books because I was waiting for season two, and and then I was like, the show isn't nearly as good.
Yeah, that's what happens. One or the other always pales in comparisons. It's very rare that the books are just as good as the movie or the show.
Well, now
The
I'm
exception.
I'm going the other way. I'm just tired of reading those books, so I'll just watch the show until it plays out, even if it's different in the books. I'm done with it.
Sounds good. That's all I have on the expansion. Anything else you want to say on the season so far?
No, I'm just looking forward to it, and I hope that sci-fi keeps doing good things. You know, The Expanse, Magicians, a few other shows that they've got going. They've really stepped up the production value, and I'm really enjoying it. Better than some of the crap fare that we used to be getting from them. Sharknado, you know,
Z Nation.
Z Nation. All
Yeah, I'm
right,
still watching it. I don't know why. I'm a glutton for punishment, I
I
guess.
guess so.
I hate myself for watching it, but I'm like, well, it's either that or I got to watch Grey's Anatomy. So,
I don't know. That might be a toss-up.
I'd rather
Anyway,
watch a rolling wheel of cheese with legs sticking out of it than Grey's Anatomy.
you might be getting the better one there. All right,
Yeah.
so you can follow us on Twitter at Grizzled Geeks. You can check out our YouTube site at grizzledgeeks.com for video archives and our other shows. And check us out here live on Twitch for streaming. Normally streaming Saturday nights, and we'll be doing some smaller content as we go, like this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and good night.
Good night.